brother. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Obviously, FEMA and our federal partners are doing everything that we can to support our state and local governments that are going through a tremendous hit. Bottom line, it was one of the most powerful storms that the country's seen since 1851. And I think the TV cameras are revealing what that looks like, particularly in the Mexico Beach area, but there's a lot of damage inland. Last night, the storm also pushed through North Carolina and Virginia. We had fatalities. I think there were up to 5 fatalities in Virginia, a lot of flash flooding and localized flooding. But we're largely focused still on search and rescue in some of these areas. You know, there was a tremendous amount of debris. And so when you look at this, the damage in Mexico Beach, that is where the ocean rose potentially 14 feet with wave action on top and just shoved buildings out of the way. And when you have that type of damage, it takes some time to get in and actually go through and do the search and rescue. We hope to have 100% of the initial search and rescue operation done in Florida, you know, today. It's still not safe to return, particularly to Bay County, Florida. Doing so, there's no infrastructure there to support you, and quite honestly, it's a dangerous area to go back into. You know, when you have this type of destruction, there's gas lines that are there, there's power lines that are down. In doing so, you're putting your life in danger, and we ask you to be patient, you know, before you just try to rush back into those areas, and understand that we're doing everything that we can to get the roadways open and trying to stabilize the situation so that people can go home and figure out how to put the rest of their livelihood back together.
Good news from the weather aspect of things. Michael will be moving rapidly out to sea today. Just a few more hours of heavy impacts along southern New England. High surf, heavy rainfall, strong winds. Fortunately, that'll be shoved well out to sea by tonight. We will see, though, the threat for river flooding continuing in Virginia, down toward the North Carolina, Piedmont, even toward coastal areas well into next week as runoff trickles down toward the south. However, we don't see any significant weather patterns moving into the area over the next week, so the river should recede at least by the middle to latter half of next week. So no significant weather threats beyond this.
Category 4 storms bring the worst type of devastation that you've seen. We've seen the worst of the storm surge, we've seen the worst of the winds, and not only that, but it moved inland and it caused a lot of flash flooding problems and loss of life all the way through Virginia. It takes time to put these things back together and help, you know, communities strive for a new normal, but we are doing everything that we possibly can to move as quick as we can. You know, we want people to understand how these storms attack communities. You know, they're classified by winds, but storm surge causes the most amount of loss of life, and it causes the most amount of destruction, and you're witnessing it in Mexico Beach, and I hope that the country won't forget it. And that when you go back to rebuild these areas, that you do so in a resilient fashion, that we don't rebuild to the same standards, that we have locals and state governments start to implement real building codes across this country. It's frustrating to us because we repeat this cycle over and over again.